inspiration. There is someone you want to be like. There is someone you inspire yourself to be like. I know how it is. You want to be like Cristiano Ronaldo. You want to be like that pop star. You want to be like that millionaire, like that influencer. I know how it is. But sometimes for some people it's simpler. I want to be I want to be like my father. I want to be like my uncle, my master, my teacher. There is someone you look up to, someone you look with admiration, someone you want to have certain traits from. But is there anyone that you want to be 100% like in every area, all areas? Is there? No, there is not, because everyone has a flaw. Everyone has a certain characteristic that that person may hide or not, it doesn't matter, but a certain characteristic that you would not want to imitate. And that's okay, because we are humans. But I know someone that if you look up to that person, you would want to be like in every single area. Every single area. There is just one area that that person does not do, that you might want to imitate, but it's not necessary. But all the other areas, it is good for you to imitate. We are talking about the ultimate model. The ultimate model in life. Who is that person? You're gonna see later, but let's talk about each area, each category of life, and how that person is simply crazy good. Let us talk about identity and purpose. And the things I want to talk about here is knowing who you are, knowing your exact value, and knowing how much you are worth in this world, and the fact that no one is above you and no one is under you. You have no authority to discriminate anyone. You have no legal right to do that. At the same time, you have no right to be arrogant, because even though in one area you may be superior to another person, that other person will probably be superior to you in another. So think about that in a moment. That is very important, knowing who you are and knowing who the others are. That's very basic. But now we have the short-term versus long-term goals. You know how to divide between short-term goals and long-term goals, right? But the thing here is, when you have a long-term goal, you'll probably have to sacrifice some of your short-term comfort. Maybe instead of doom scrolling, you simply go and work, for example, on the thing you want to succeed at. If it's your relationship, then your relationship. If it's your marriage, your marriage. If it's your work, your work. If it's your business, your business. If it's gym, the gym. But you see what I mean. You have to do some sacrifices, but sometimes we don't do all the necessary sacrifices. That is where we have someone we can follow as an example in that. A person who has, in every time the person could, in the right time, sacrifice the short-term comfort for long-term vision. Now, living with mission instead of drifting is another important thing. You have a mission, you have a purpose, and you follow it, you go towards it. You don't drift, you don't distract yourself. You are focused. That's something many people have to learn. They start one thing and never finish. And then when they are doing something, when they are working towards a goal, they distract themselves. They distract themselves, and then for a certain time, they make no progress. And even worse, they make backwards progress, I would say like that. They they grow even worse than before. And tied to identity and purpose, there is also more in the identity side, not caring much about what other people think, in a good sense, because you have to care, you must, about what the important people think about you, like your mother, the good people around you. You have to. And even if you don't admit yourself, you do care about even what people you don't know think about you. You do care about, because you want to be well seen, you want to have a good reputation. So don't come with that. But you don't seek validation. That's not something you seek, because you have validation in yourself. That's what I mean by not caring. You don't have to have others' approval. Even though you care what others think about you, it's not a must. They don't have to see you as the guy to put you on a pedestal. They don't. And that's okay. They don't have to see you as a model, as an perfect example. No, it doesn't matter what they think in that sense. You don't need their approval. You don't need their validation. You have validation yourself to be happy. And you have also that inner certainty, even when you are misunderstood by other people. So other people may think something, and you have that inner certainty, so that even though other people doubt and they do not believe in you, you believe in yourself. You have that certainty about who you are, and about what is gonna happen, and about what you have to do, and about what you believe in yourself and also in other things. But you are certain. So in real life scenarios, that could be, you know where you're heading in your career and in your life, and you work towards it, and you are focused, and at the same time, everything that happens, it doesn't affect your identity, because your identity is like a rock. It's like a huge fortress that cannot be taken down. That's what your identity is. Your identity has a foundation. You have a foundation on where everything else is on. So you know what you're doing. You are intentional. And at the same time, you know your purpose, and you go towards it without distracting yourself from it. Now, second area, relationships and social intelligence. You know what people to choose as your friends. You know how to choose the people you walk around with. You also know how to engage in conversations, how to start a conversation, how to stop a conversation, when to stay, when to go away. You know when you should be with people and when you should be alone to think and also to do everything. You also know when to listen and when to speak. And you know when to answer and when to ask a question and when to be silent. So you know how to act socially. You know how to do that. And something very important, you know how to balance compassion and sympathy with boundaries. You know when to set them and how to set them. Now you are humble and you have the ability to master your ego. Yes, your ego. So the thing here is, people have a big ego a lot of times, even though they don't want to admit it. Normally the people who are insecure and shy and they don't want to mess with things, they care a lot about other people think about them. Those are people who have a big ego on themselves. They think like they're in the center of the world. They think like they're special. They think like they're someone different from the others. And you are someone different from the others, but you're still a human. You're still a human. And there is also the other side of the spectrum. Well, where you see people bragging about what they've done, what they've achieved, about themselves, being arrogant and having a high pride. Ego has a lot to do with pride. And people who cannot humble themselves. People who, in situations like you are rich, for example, and then you are used to have a lot of comfort in your life, and in a situation where you're required to let go of that comfort for a certain time, or to be with a certain person in a different situation, you don't want to do it. And then you kind of humiliate the other person for that. Why? So there is a big thing about being humble and showing respect to other people. And that is also why a lot of times when you start in a company or in an organization, you start down below and then you climb up, because that gives you humility. That makes you humble, makes you stay humble. And that's why a lot of times the people who are on top, who grew, and people who climbed up the ladder, you know what the thing here is? They stay humble because they know what it is like. That's for a lot of guys. That's not for everyone, of course, but that's a way life teaches you to be humble. You experience the lows and then you are on the highs. So in this case, it's everything about humility, in the sense of you have confidence, but you don't necessarily seek and need the status. The confidence is in yourself. You don't need others' approval or anything. You don't need your ego to be set higher up by other people. You don't need that. You don't need to be praised. You don't. And another thing is, you don't try to dominate other people. You serve them. You serve them. Person needs something, you do it for the person. Even though you are in a higher position, even though you are a leader, or you are the boss, let's say, you still serve the other person. Sometimes even looking like a slave sometimes. I know it's difficult, but that's the standard. You see, another big step of humility is letting the actions speak for themselves. If the person does not believe in you, you don't necessarily have to prove that person. You let the actions speak for themselves. Better than self-promotion. You don't need to be promoting yourself or to be bragging about everything. And another thing here is, you don't need to take praises and recognition for everything you do. Like, if people recognize you, that's fine. But you don't need to be saying, hey, I did this, I did that. You don't need to brag. You don't need to boast. You don't need that.